I am Charlene Pierce, a 68-year-old widow living in a quiet suburb. My days usually consist of tending to my garden, reading historical fiction, and enjoying the peace my late husband and I built. That peace shattered on a Tuesday morning. I was pruning my rose bushes when my phone buzzed. A representative from a major bank informed me I was 2 months behind on a massive mortgage. I assumed it was a scam. I owned my modest 3-bedroom home free and clear. I calmly informed the young man he had the wrong number. He recited my full name, my social security number, and my precise date of birth. Then he read the address of the property in default. It was a sprawling modern farmhouse in an upscale neighborhood across town. It was the exact house my daughter Brenda and her husband Tom had purchased 8 months ago. My heart beat a little faster, but I didn't panic. I didn't cry. I simply hung up, washed my hands, and drove straight to the bank's local branch. I demanded to see the origination documents immediately. The branch manager slid a thick folder across his desk. I flipped through the pages. The signature on the dotted line was a remarkably good forgery, but it wasn't mine. Brenda always had a talent for mimicking handwriting. She had used my pristine credit score to secure a loan she and Tom could never qualify for. I asked for copies of everything. On my way home, I stopped at the local precinct. I filed an official identity theft report to freeze my credit, ensuring no further damage could be done. But I had no intention of letting the justice system handle my daughter. I had my own plans. Tonight was our weekly family dinner at Brenda's house, and I was bringing a very special appetizer. She and Tom lived far beyond their means. They drove leased luxury SUVs, wore designer clothes, and constantly bragged about their fabricated wealth on social media. Meanwhile, they expected me to babysit their 2 children every weekend for free. If I ever mentioned being tired, Brenda would roll her eyes and accuse me of not loving my grandchildren. When they moved into the $625,000 farmhouse, Brenda paraded me through the massive rooms, boasting about the granite countertops and the custom hardwood floors. She even had the nerve to point at a small, dark corner room in the basement, jokingly calling it my future nursing home. I spent the afternoon before our dinner securing my finances. I went to my credit union, withdrew my savings, and moved everything into a new account with enhanced security protocols. I changed my passwords, secured my passport, and placed my physical assets in a safe deposit box. I didn't shed a single tear. Crying wouldn't erase a fraudulent mortgage. Action would. I dressed in a neat, tailored blouse and slacks, applied a fresh coat of lipstick, and drove to the house my credit had unknowingly purchased. I parked my reliable 10-year-old sedan next to Tom's gleaming sports car. The grand front doors loomed before me. For months, Brenda had treated me like a guest in this house, dictating where I could sit, and scolding me if I left a water glass on her precious coffee table. She loved the power she held over me in her massive home. She had no idea that legally every single brick of this estate belonged to me. I grabbed my purse, feeling the crisp edges of the manila folder inside, and rang the doorbell. "Take those off, Mom. The cleaning lady just polished the entryway," she instructed, turning her back to me. I slipped off my shoes and followed her into the sprawling dining room. Tom sat at the head of the long oak table, tapping furiously on his phone. My 2 grandchildren were upstairs absorbed in their tablets. The table was set with fine china and catered food. They were living like royalty on my stolen identity. Throughout dinner, Brenda complained about the cost of landscaping. "It's just impossible to find good help," she sighed, taking a delicate bite of her salmon. And Tom's bonus was smaller than expected. "Mom, we might need you to watch the kids for a full week next month. We need a vacation to decompress." "I won't be available," I replied, simply cutting my fish. Brenda lowered her fork, her eyes narrowing. "What do you mean you aren't available? What else do you have to do?" "I have personal matters to attend to." I smiled, dabbing my mouth with a linen napkin. Speaking of personal matters, I visited the bank today. Tom stopped tapping on his phone. The dining room suddenly felt incredibly quiet, save for the hum of the central air conditioning. The bank? Brenda questioned, her voice, losing a fraction of its usual arrogant edge. I reached into my leather purse and pulled out the manila folder. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a tantrum or demand tearful apologies. At dinner, I slid the police report across the table. It stopped right next to her crystal wine glass. The bold black letters at the top clearly read identity theft, alongside the badge number of the officer who took my statement. Brenda stared at it like it was a live grenade. "Mom, what is this?" Brenda stammered, her fingers trembling slightly as she touched the edge of the folder. "That is a police report." I stated, my voice steady and completely devoid of emotion. "It documents a $625,000 mortgage taken out in my name without my consent. It also documents the perfectly forged signature on the deed to this house." "We were going to tell you," Tom blurted out, his arrogant posture dissolving instantly. "My credit took a hit, and Brenda said you wouldn't mind helping us out. We've been making the payments." "You missed the last two," I corrected him. "And you didn't ask. You stole." Brenda finally found her voice, tears pooling in her eyes. "Mom, please. If you give that to the bank, they'll arrest us. I'll go to jail. Think about your grandchildren. You can't destroy our family." I leaned forward, resting my forearms on the table. "You destroyed the trust in this family, Brenda. But lucky for you, I haven't pressed criminal charges. I merely froze my credit to stop you from opening any more accounts." Relief washed over her face, but it was entirely premature. She mistook my calmness for weakness. "Oh, thank you, Mom. I promise we'll catch up on the payments. We will pay you back every cent." "Oh, no, you won't," I interrupted. "Because this isn't your house anymore. My name is on the mortgage. My name is on the deed. Legally, this property belongs entirely to me." I reached into my purse again and pulled out a single bronze key, the spare she had given me for emergencies. I placed it gently on top of the police report. "I am moving in tomorrow morning," I announced. "And things are going to change." Brenda stood in the foyer, wearing an oversized robe, looking completely disheveled. "Mom, this is ridiculous. You have your own house. You can't just move in here." "I rented my house out to a lovely young couple this morning," I answered cheerfully, wheeling my bags past her. "I need to protect my $625,000 investment." I walked straight upstairs and pushed open the double doors to the massive master suite. Brenda scrambled up the stairs behind me. "What are you doing?" "That's our room," she shrieked. "Not anymore," I countered, dropping my bags on the plush king-sized bed. "I am the homeowner. I take the master bedroom. You and Tom can move into the guest room down the hall." "I am not sleeping in a twin bed," Brenda yelled, her face turning a deep shade of red. I paused, turning to face her with a calm, practiced smile. "The police precinct is only 10 minutes away, Brenda. I can easily turn that report into a formal criminal complaint. Or you can start packing your clothes." She clamped her mouth shut. The realization that she had zero leverage finally hit her. I spent the rest of the morning unpacking my clothes into her custom walk-in closet. When I finished, I called a local locksmith. By noon, I had a heavy-duty deadbolt installed on the master bedroom door. I wasn't playing a game, and I wasn't going to be a victim in my own name. If she wanted to live in a house bought with my credit, she was going to live under my absolute authority. And I was just getting started. I simply gathered her dirty clothes, placed them in a black trash bag, and set them on the front porch. As for the dishes, I neatly stacked them in a cardboard box and placed it on her new bed in the guest room. I didn't utter a word. I didn't need to. When Tom came home, he tried to assert his dominance. He stormed into the kitchen while I was enjoying a cup of chamomile tea. "Charlene, you can't treat Brenda this way. She's incredibly stressed out," he demanded, puffing out his chest. I took a slow sip of my tea. "Tom, since the mortgage is in my name, I took the liberty of reviewing the household expenses. The electricity, water, and internet are also under my name. I assume Brenda forged those as well." Tom crossed his arms. So I canceled the premium cable package this afternoon. I also downgraded the internet to the basic tier." I smiled. "Furthermore, since you are living in my property, you will pay me $3,000 a month in rent due on the 1st. If you miss a payment, I will cut the power." "You can't do that," Tom shouted. "It's my account," I replied softly. "I can do whatever I please. If you don't like the arrangement, I suggest you find an apartment." I rinsed my teacup and walked past him, leaving him standing speechless in the kitchen. I wasn't going to argue, plead, or negotiate. I held the keys, the credit, and the power. They were finally learning what a strict boundary looked like, and they absolutely hated it. But I slept wonderfully that night. Brenda attempted one last desperate tactic: emotional manipulation. She cornered me in the hallway one Saturday morning holding my youngest grandson. "Since you're being so unreasonable about the bills, we can't afford a babysitter," Brenda snapped. "You have to watch the kids today. We have a brunch date with Tom's boss." In the past, the threat of losing time with my grandchildren would have made me cave immediately. Brenda relied on my guilt to get whatever she desired. I looked at my grandson, gave him a warm smile, and then looked directly into Brenda's eyes. "I have a massage booked at 11, and then I'm meeting the girls for a late lunch. You'll have to cancel your brunch." "You're choosing a massage over your own family," Brenda gasped, trying to sound heartbroken. "I am choosing my peace of mind over your irresponsibility," I corrected her. I grabbed my purse and walked out the front door, leaving her standing there in total shock. I enjoyed my day out thoroughly. I didn't check my phone. I didn't worry about what they were eating or how Brenda was coping. For the first time in years, I was living entirely for myself. When I returned that evening, the house was a disaster, and Brenda was exhausted. I simply walked over the toys in the living room, unlocked my master suite, and closed the door. But as I lay in bed, I realized this arrangement wasn't a long-term solution. The massive mortgage hanging over my head was a liability I didn't want to carry into my twilight years. It was time for the final move. I opened my laptop and started searching for professionals who could help me finish this mess once and for all. "It's a beautiful property, Mrs. Pierce." Sarah complimented, taking notes on her tablet. "The market is incredibly hot right now. We could list this and have it sold in a matter of weeks." "Are you sure you want to let it go?" "Absolutely certain," I answered without hesitation. Since my name was the only one on the deed, I had the sole legal authority to sell the property. I signed the listing agreement right there on the kitchen island. I didn't consult Brenda. I didn't warn Tom. The next day, I hired a professional staging crew. They came in and ruthlessly decluttered the house. They boxed up Brenda's excessive decorations, removed Tom's bulky recliner, and rearranged the furniture to make the rooms look even larger. I supervised the entire process, sipping my coffee as their precious belongings were packed away in brown cardboard boxes and stacked neatly in the garage. By Thursday, a massive wooden "for sale" sign was firmly planted in the middle of the perfectly manicured front lawn. The house was listed on every major real estate website, and Sarah had scheduled a massive open house for the upcoming weekend. I felt a profound sense of relief watching that sign go up. I was taking my name, my credit, and my future back. I knew the explosion that was coming when my daughter returned home, but I wasn't afraid. I had set my boundaries, and I was holding the line. Let them be furious. I was finally free. I spent the rest of the afternoon baking a batch of chocolate chip cookies, letting the sweet aroma fill the newly staged kitchen. When the clock struck 5, I sat at the island waiting for the front door to open. "What is that sign doing in the front yard?" Brenda shrieked, dropping her designer handbag on the floor. "And where is all my stuff? What did you do to my living room?" I took a slow bite of my warm chocolate chip cookie. "I staged the house for the open house this weekend. It went on the market at noon." "You can't sell my house," Brenda screamed, stomping her foot like a petulant toddler. "This is my dream home. We picked out the tiles. We designed the kitchen. You picked it out, but I paid for it," I stated calmly, standing up from the stool. "And according to the county records, it is my house. The mortgage is in my name. Therefore, I am selling it." Tom stepped forward, his face red. "You can't do this to us, Charlene. Where are we supposed to go?" I reached onto the counter and handed Tom a stack of flattened cardboard boxes. "I suggest you figure that out quickly. We already had 2 cash offers over asking price within the first 3 hours. The house will likely close in 30 days. Consider this your formal eviction notice." Brenda collapsed onto one of the stage sofas, burying her face in her hands. She finally realized the depth of her mistake. There were no lawyers to call, no legal loopholes to exploit. She couldn't fight me for the house without admitting to felony mortgage fraud. By trying to steal my future, she had completely forfeited her own. They were entirely trapped by their own greed. I didn't offer a shoulder to cry on, and I didn't offer to help them pack. I simply picked up my plate of cookies, walked upstairs to my master suite, and locked the deadbolt behind me. The sound of the lock clicking into place was the most satisfying noise I had heard in years. The day of the closing, Brenda and Tom packed the last of their belongings into a rented moving truck. They were forced to sign a lease on a cramped 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. Brenda refused to look at me as she handed over her set of keys. I accepted them without a word. There was no tearful goodbye, no fake reconciliation, and no empty promises to do better. I took the equity check and moved to a beautiful, quiet 55-plus community in Florida. I bought a cozy ground-floor condo with a sunroom where I can read my books and drink my coffee in absolute peace. Nobody asks me for money. Nobody expects me to clean up their messes. I still see my grandchildren, of course. I fly them down for a few weeks during the summer. But the rules are strictly enforced. Brenda is not invited. She knows that my boundaries are carved in stone. If she ever attempts to cross them again, the police report sitting in my safe deposit box will find its way to the authorities. People often ask me if I regret being so harsh on my own flesh and blood. I just smile. I didn't ruin my daughter's life. I simply stopped letting her ruin mine. I took back my name, my finances, and my dignity. For the first time in my 68 years, I am the sole author of my own story. And the view from my Florida porch is absolutely spectacular. I learned the hard way that true peace doesn't come from endless sacrifice, but from knowing exactly when to stand your ground.